Welcome to today's reflection. My name is Tabby Kimani, and we're excited to have you back. From last week reflections, we talked about family, and today we are going to the marketplaces. And so we have an employer and an employee to help us understand what it is to have a good relationship and a healthy relationship between employers and employees. And to help me in that, I am joined by two people. One is an employer and another one is an employee. So I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves to us. Welcome.
Welcome to Reflections.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can start with you, James.
My name is James Muraguri. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Institute of Public Finance Kenya, and I'm a member in this church from District 15.
Wow. Thank you. Yes, Helen, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Helen Karime. I am a member of this church. I work at Jubilee Insurance under the Life Company, and I'm happy to be here.
So exciting. So you have a CEO and you have Helen who works as an employer. So James, I'll be referring to him as James. He requested me to do that, by the way. I wanted to call him a different name, but anyway, it's okay. So we understand that your position as an employer and knowing that you are a Christian and we are always told every other Sunday that we should share the light to wherever we are. And you as a Christian who is an employee, who is an employer, how do you treat your employees with godliness? How do you ensure that you shed your light to those people?
Thanks, Tabitha. Primarily, as a Christian and reflecting on what God requires of me, the Bible is very clear. When God created man, he said, let's create a man who looks like me. So that's godly. So as an employer, I don't just treat people in a godly way. I treat them as human beings who are like God.
Wow.
And that means that primarily I respect, I provide, I give respect to my employees as human beings, not as employees.
Mm-hmm. So they are first human beings.
They are first human beings.
They're a reflection of God.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's interesting, especially hearing that from an employer, part. And what about you, Helen? How are you able to treat your employee who probably you do not even maybe agree on some issues? They are, pressurizing you, and you're there wondering, how do you treat them?
Okay. For me as an employee, I know, most of the time you tend to disagree on most of the issues, Mm-hmm. And because you find for the employer, like regardless of anything, they want you to also treat them with respect. Because as far as you address your issues and as far as you address your views the way you want them to, the way you would like them to do, as long as you do it respectfully. So actually, because for me, like for my experience is at times you agree to what they say. But then later on you'll go back and just tell them, this is what I think and this is what you said, but this is my view on how this should be done. So as long as you put your opinion out there and as long as you do it respectfully.
Wow, that's interesting, especially when you're not agreeing with our employer. It gets difficult. And maybe just to ride on that and ask you are an employee who has to listen to when you're given instructions, have to do them in the right way at the right time, however pressurizing it is. And I understand, especially in insurance companies, there's a lot of pressure, and there's a very thin line maybe to balance work and looking at an employer or even your colleagues as friends. So how are you able to navigate through that? This is work, but when it comes to friendship, you can't just our employers are human beings, you know. They're not robots that they can do that, do this. They're also people whom we have to talk to, we have to listen to, colleagues whom we have to talk to and listen to. How do you navigate ensuring that there's a healthy relationship, work and friendship balance at your workplace?
To answer to that, I will say it's not something that it's so easy to do, or rather to balance.
Yeah.
You know, because we are humans. I mean, we are different. We have different opinions. We have different views. We are from different backgrounds, so we do things differently. Yeah.
True.
So it's about just learning who the other person really is.
Yeah.
And just ensuring that you maintain that cordial relationship with everyone, despite it being your senior, despite it being your junior.
Yeah.
Ensuring that you just have that, you're in good terms with everyone, because you know you're able to work even better when you ensure that you're in good terms with everyone. So just having that balance, and also having that, creating that boundary of knowing who people really are, and making sure that you don't cross a line that, you know, that is too far for that specific person.
Yeah.
So it's just but making a balance and just getting to know who people really are.
Yeah. You mentioned something very important. People come from different places. Their experiences are different. They come from different backgrounds. So how they do things, how they react to things, how they, you know, and these people, you have to work together with them. And so I'm just looking at James and wondering, you are an employer. There are people who are coming to your company. And these people, probably they come as interns, maybe as an entry point. Others you just employ. And how do you go beyond reaching out, you know, from an interview they have passed, now reaching out to ensure that you maintain a good relationship where this I'm saying as a boss, this I'm saying as a friend. How do you navigate through that?
Well, that's a very interesting scenario, Tabitha. But so one of the things is understanding that you must be very deliberate in creating relations, right? And I tell my team, we don't have to be friends to work together. But it helps very much to be friends. It helps very much to be friends, right? So that also you are able to ensure that as an employer, there are no blurred lines, right?
Yeah.
And because most of the time, you know, if there are blurred lines, then it becomes difficult to achieve the objectives and the mission of the company. And you know, as an employer, your topmost thing on the head should be people. Should be people. Because when you see the people who support driving the vision of the company, then you definitely invest in the relation. So you definitely take time to interact with the people you work with. And because companies have performance targets to meet, and we do have performance targets to meet, then every time you interact with people, you just don't see them as a target, you know, like, you guys, we need to do this. You see them as stewards, because you have to invest, you have to put resources for you to get more resources, and we invest in our staff, for example, because we have to achieve our vision, our vision as a company.
Great. It's interesting what you started with. It we don't have to be friends to work, but
Absolutely.
It really helps
It's to be friends
as an employer, as an employee, to, you know, to have a good relationship with people whom you're working with. And you know, Ephesians chapter 6 verse 5 to 9, it talks to masters and tells them, masters, treat your servants so well. And I'm looking at you. You're really working hard to ensure that you have a good relationship with these employees. But it happens, they don't work. They don't do what you tell them. And you've invested in the people, as you're saying before, even because you're looking at them as stewards, which is a really good way of looking at your employees. But then you realize that there are those who are really difficult. You know, they're just stubborn, they're difficult. And I'm looking at you. Have you ever reached to a point that you're firing people? And how do you treat your employees, or how do you do that when you're having this difficult employee?
You know, it's very difficult to fire people.
I know.
But it's also the easiest thing. because probably you are the seed that was growing on the sod. We need to fire you so that you can grow in the fertile soil. And probably, from my perspective, at the point at which we are firing you, because we have fired people, and I mean, when you fire people because of performance, you know, it's part of the soft part of it, you know. We essentially telling you, this is not the right fit. You're not supposed to be here. You know, you're supposed to be in company B, because that's probably your fertile soil. So go and find your company B where you need to grow. You know, it's, I mean, no hard feelings. No hard feelings. We're just telling you, when we fire you, and I mean, I tell people, I mean, Lily, I think I've also been fired. So, Lily, when you get fired, essentially where you're being fired, you're being told, or when you leave that employment, you're just saying, I need to find my fertile soil. I cannot grow on hard ground, you know, or on the logs, because essentially you're on the logs. If you're being fired, and especially when you're getting fired because of performance, or any other, let's say, including gross misconduct, it essentially means that environment is hard rocks. You cannot grow in that environment. You need to go and rethink, become that seed, go die again in the soil, and sprout and grow in fertile soil. I mean, that's contextually the way I look at it. You know, and it will happen. It's just even for us, we're looking for business. We miss business from one client, we get business from the other client. Essentially, you don't mourn when you miss business from one client.
True.
You accept that was just hard ground. We could not grow in that. You go and look for your fertile soil where you're supposed to be growing.
True.
And that's what I mean, I tell employees, you know, it's the same scenario. Don't mourn, you know, ask God for wisdom and guidance. You know, if you are a believer, you know, just don't see it as a punishment. It would be the most hurting thing when you get fired, when you get laid off. Like now, around COVID times, many people have been laid off.
True.
But ask God for wisdom and guidance. Ask God, where is my fertile ground? You know, that's what I mean, I would say.
Guys, where is your fertile land? Look for it. The point is, seek it. You will find it. And moving on swiftly, Helen is an employee, and especially I know that you work with a lot of, you know, ultimatum to ensure that things are done at a certain time, and of course done in the right way. And at times it gets so pressurizing. There's a lot you have to do. How do you strike the balance between your personal time, working time, when not to pick calls, when not to pick them? I mean, how do you navigate through that?
Okay, Tabitha, I think really saying work, personal time balance at times, there's just no balance. At times you tend to put more of your time to work, and at times you tend to put more of your time to your personal time. But then again, you realize you to be whole and to be productive, you also need to take that time out of yourself. So basically what that means, you just schedule time for to do your stuff, to spend time also with yourself and probably do what makes you grow, what will help you to be even more productive when you get back to work. So basically it's just about being also intentional. You be intentional about creating that time for yourself, because only then will you be able to be more productive. Because you know, when you tend to overwhelm yourself again with work and all that kind of thing, then it gets a bit hard. And then also realizing that we are humans, like our bodies, we still need that rest. And when it comes to a time when you already you have burnout, then you're not able even to work more effectively, you know. So at times it's just about being intentional about it and saying that, especially now that we are working from home, there's always that difficulty of realizing, oh, it's already past 5, then I need to do my own stuff. Maybe I need to read a book or whatever, you know. At times it gets that hard, but then it's about being intentional about it. If it means that you have to create a schedule at the beginning of every week, you diarize that, then you have to do what you have to do to ensure that at least you strike that balance.
Let me add to Helen's point. You absolutely, you have got to be very intentional about it. And there is nothing, I tell my team, there's nothing like work-life balance. It's work-life bias. You choose to be biased. When you go to the office, be in the office. Please, when you leave office, think about your family, think about your life. And for young people, please, while it's very important to also to go out, make money, you're busy working, please go hang out with your friends. Man, go meet your friends. Switch off that laptop. Go. Unfortunately, the bit that we don't realize is we work extremely very hard. And I'm an employee of the company I work with because I earn a salary.
Okay.
I just don't because I'm an employer. I get paid a salary at the end of the month.
True.
But for the first time, this COVID period,
Yes.
I've had to work from home. When I go home with my laptop, when I switch off from the office,
Yeah.
I don't switch on my laptop in the house. That has been my principle since I've been working for this company.
Wow.
And I don't work over the weekends, and my team does not work over the weekends. We even ensure that we schedule our travels for work between Monday and Friday. It's deliberate.
Yeah.
It's work-life bias. There is you cannot balance work and life. You can't.
Interesting. Interesting.
And the moment you try to balance, one will give in. And mostly what gives in? It's
Your
life.
personal time. Your life.
It's your life. And then you start wondering, where did my family go, for example?
Yeah.
Because you are busy keeping your employer happy.
Yeah.
But the moment, unfortunately, God forbid, the moment you die,
yeah.
we put an obituary on the newspapers and say how good an employee you are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And so that's why I recommend be biased. By the way, you'll get the pressure from your employer because of targets or demands. Well and good. But choose. Be wise.
Yeah.
Be wise.
Yeah.
And and it's also a question of toxic work environment.
Yeah.
True.
That's it. Your employer is pushing you for targets and everything. That's
Yeah.
toxicity. I mean, we are in a highly competitive world when it comes to the
True.
corporate environment.
Yeah.
You'll be told, we want you in the office at 8,
Yeah.
and you have to beat traffic to be, and you have to leave in the office at 5,
Yeah.
and sometimes 9. You can imagine for some other institutions where 31st December, you have to close the year. So midnight, you have to be in the office to close the year.
Oh no.
Man, your family, you haven't seen your family over the last 3 days because you're busy. You check in at 2 a.m. and you're out by 5 a.m. Really. It's very important because you have to, we have to earn our bacon. We have, we have to earn.
Yeah.
But be deliberate.
Yeah,
Be deliberate. And I recommend, choose wisely. Make a wise decision. When you can, go hang out with your friends. By the way, the people who will come to hang out with you
Yeah.
when you really need them
Yeah.
are your social friends, not your work colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll be busy in the office trying to meet the targets.
The targets.
But when you need social friends,
Yeah.
the guys you hang around are the ones who will come to see you. So be deliberate.
Very interesting.
And that's why you have to work-life bias.
Yeah.
Be biased.
Wow.
Give your don't steal time from your employer. Don't steal employer's time.
Yeah.
And likewise, don't deny yourself the rightful share of your time. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, guys, I think we can even close it from there, but wait. Wait, there's something interesting that he mentions, and we are actually heading there. Toxic places of work. And how at times it gets so much into you, and we actually lose people. They lose, as you said, rightly said, lose family, lose friends, even somebody who was coming to church, they no longer now come to church because why? I'm busy working. And you're wondering, okay, so when do you rest? Such kind of things. And, just maybe we can get from Helen, how do you raise that? How do you raise when it's extreme? And maybe just for you could, as an employee, could give us tips of how an employee can raise that in a respectful manner, and to say no. When to say no, I cannot take that any longer, and just to, tell your employer, this is it. And maybe just to, I think you mentioned something very nice about, telling your employer, no, this is it. And just for you, maybe Helen is an employee. How do you? I know you mentioned that a little earlier, but we'd love to see when it's getting toxic, when you cannot, as you said, bias. you cannot, let have yourself your own time. So how do you raise such an issue? or even just other toxic things in your workplace?
Okay, Tabby, for my experience, I am really glad that I haven't really had a toxic work environment.
Wow.
Whereby you're not allowed to have your own time, you know, because for us in my company, what we do is that we get to schedule prior every quarter. We get to schedule when will I take leave days. So like in our team, we will schedule from this week we'll have this one, go on leave, and then you'll have to schedule a week that you're comfortable in. So we take that time at least to unplug from all the work and all that kind of thing. So at least I am really glad to have an employer who at least considers the fact that we need also to have a break from work and everything. So yeah, up to now, I really haven't had, I wouldn't say I've had a toxic work environment where I'm being forced to do things. Yeah,
Wow.
really.
You're so lucky.
Oh, very lucky.
You're so lucky.
Very lucky.
How about you? Maybe you could just speak in both aspects. How can an employee ask or say, this is toxic, I can't take it anymore? And how would you tell maybe young upcoming employers, because you believe that guys are gonna have those companies and gonna have employees, how can they ensure that they are not toxic to these people who are working under them?
So primarily, I think one thing you have to realize is that people don't leave companies, they leave bad managers. If somebody is resigning, sometimes it will not necessarily be driven by money, they are going for more money. Essentially, they're just looking for good space where they can be themselves. And that's because an organization, take an organization like St. Andrews, it's got nothing, as an employee, it's got nothing you can do about it. So you can't leave the organization. You probably will be leaving your supervisor because they've already created a toxic environment. So the question then we ask as an employer is, have I provided safeguarding policies? Right? And by safeguarding policies, then I mean, how can an employee reach out to senior management, reach out to the company CEO, for example, or even the board, you know, and say that this is happening. It's like whistleblowing policies. You know, I can't survive in this. Because some people, you may love a company so much, but just your manager is toxic. You can't. And so as employers, and I recommend, and so you find also, as young people like myself, we develop companies, we lack accountability mechanisms. So you don't have anyone who can challenge you. You are the boss. You can't be challenged. You can't be challenged. So even employees cannot reach out to tell you anything. How do I tell my boss that it's toxic? So for example, for me, and I will recommend to young people, create a board. Have a board of directors. I report to a chairman. I report to a chairman. People who keep me accountable. I have a board of 5. While I'm the CEO, and for that matter, the founding CEO of the institute, I am accountable to other people who don't work at the institute. And our staff know that actually you can reach out. They can reach out to our chairman, you know. They can reach out to a board treasurer, you know. And the young people who gonna be great employers for that matter, for example, you know, think about that one. Who keeps you accountable? So that, you know, because I said, when you're building a company, don't just build an ordinary company. Build a great company. Build a great company that outlives you. But you also have an option of building a sole proprietorship, where it's you and yourself.
And
you know?
alone.
So the only person who can challenge you is the person who comes to your shop and says, I'll not come here tomorrow because you talk to me badly. But if you build a great institution, an institution that will outlive you, for example, and also ask God for a lot of wisdom, because you'll be stewarding resources, and a lot of resources for that matter. But what do those resources do?
I know there are those guys who are looking for jobs, and of course even right now during COVID time, now that we are really opening up, there are those guys who lost their jobs and now they're looking for other places, you know, fertile land. And probably I would ask you as an employer, maybe as we come to a close, how should an employee place themselves before an employer? Does only paper the only thing that matters? Maybe. How can they prepare themselves for that?
From an employer perspective,
Yeah.
And a Christian for that matter, always remember that God is a God of new beginnings, right?
Yeah.
So, over my 17 years of life, of working life,
Yeah.
I started working as a young person, straight from school, and trying to place yourself,
Yeah.
it's the most difficult thing, and trying to get back into employment. So my recommendation would be that, look at your skills,
True.
right?
Yeah.
Your papers are good, and I recommend, if you're in school, get done with school. Papers are very important, but your skills are twice as important. Right now, given a choice between papers and skills, I'll choose skills.
Oh, okay.
Given papers, skills, and attitude, I'll choose attitude.
Wow.
In that hierarchy.
Yeah.
So papers will always come last. And you see, it's also the same question about, hiring.
Yeah.
Principally, and it's getting to that point where you hire attitude and train skills.
Great.
So as an employee, if you're looking for a job, ask yourself, how is my attitude towards adaptation? How can I adapt in that institution?
Wow.
Because when you get there,
Yeah.
the skills that you have
Yeah.
will help you survive and navigate the environment. Right? But if you have the wrong attitude, your skills will take you nowhere. That one I can guarantee you. A wrong attitude, and also remember, you'll be hired on potential, but potential won't keep you on the job. It's results and attitude that you take to the workplace.
Wow. Wow. Attitude, guys. Attitude, man. It's almost everything. So we're coming to a close of this, and maybe your parting shot, Helen, and then Mr. Muraguri. Yes.
There's this one thing that my manager always tells us is that you as a young person or as an individual is that you're a brand. So however you relate and network with people, know that you're a brand of your own. So we have this tendency where, especially us millennials, or rather people in the generation Z, we have this tendency of probably when you're submitting that resignation letter, you're like, I am out, bye, gone. But then what you don't realize is that you might need these people again, because actually, as I said, like our manager, this is what she always says, is that once you shut that door, you never know when you'll need to open it up again and come back to whoever, maybe to seek assistance, because this world, it's just a small world. Yeah, you don't know where you'll find someone out there. So one thing we should always maintain is that make sure that you have that, you're maintaining a good brand. Yeah, as even you work with people and network, that, as I said earlier, having that cordial relationship with everyone, because you don't know where you might need them. Yeah, and that's something that I am learning, and I'm still learning. In my career journey.
Wow,
yes.
Great. Generation Z, Maze. We need to up our game. James.
Yeah, it's Generation Z is the generation. Yeah, and as an employer, clearly you can tell. But the most important thing to managers, to CEOs, to company owners, primarily treat your employees as human beings first, right? As human beings, and that for me, in my few years of experience, because there are people who've worked probably for 30, 50 years, and probably they can attest. People won't remember what you did for them as primarily say, they'll remember how you made them feel. Right? So as an employer, how you make people feel in your environment, it's the key, it's the core. And also for employees, as I talking from an employee, how you make your colleagues feel. It's a game changer. That's it. So treat people as human beings first, and then the rest will follow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's it for today, guys, and that was so informative. I mean, I hope that each one of us is going to just take home something. It's not what you do, it's how you make people feel. This and so many more, and keep at these, guys. Coming up, we have a lot of good stuff, so keep watching, and we love you guys. May the Lord bless you, may the Lord keep you. We are happy to have you in these reflections episodes. God bless you.